evening. Before we start, I'd like to make sure everyone is signed in for the meeting in the back entrance of the room. If you've not, please do so, because it must be on record. I am Bob Tanner. The other board members are Scott Calhoun and John DePlacido. I'd like to introduce the following people. Matthew Puz, Zoning and Development Officer. Julie Maggio, Assistant Zoning and Development Officer. Jeremy Tillman, Board Solicitor. Tamara Doxey, Court Reporter. After the presentation by the appellant, the board will hear from those in question the appeal, those in favor, and those opposed. Any documents or evidence that is presented must be kept for a period of 60 days for our records. And after all the presentations are made, the board will recess. We will then reconvene and make our decisions. The board has 45 days to render a decision, but they're usually made this evening. If you do not care to wait for the decision, you may call the zoning office in the morning after 8:30. I would now ask that everyone please stand to be sworn in. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Please answer, I do. For those of you who entered late, please make sure you sign in the back of the room. Thank you. Okay, we have 3 items of business tonight. First one is appeal number 23-09, David Hoover, for property located at 5423 Glenwood Park Avenue, seeking a dimensional variance to expand a non-conforming structure into a front yard setback in the R1 single-family residential district. Mr. Hoover here. Please approach here. State your name and address, and then give us a description of what we're looking at here.
My name is David Hoover. My address is 5423 Glenwood Park Avenue, your EPA 16509. And
I got to move a little bit closer to the microphone so everyone in the back can hear you.
Sure. I rebuilt a garage structure that was on my property in the beginning. It was one of those tin Kwanzaa hut kind of looking things. I just want to make the property look better. And I built it on the outside of the existing structure. The inside dimension is still the same. It's just using a 6-inch wall versus a piece of tin. Pushed it out of its variance, so I need the extra inches to stay in spec for you guys.
So asking for an 8-inch.
Yeah, just
variance.
the difference is 8 inches that goes towards the street, yes. And I can't push it, I could never push it back because I have the valley behind, and there you're stuck with the, trying to think what it's called, the floodplain.
Okay.
You can't go into an existing floodplain, so I couldn't push the building any farther back than it already is.
So you're keeping the existing roof structure, just building new walls underneath?
The walls are there, the roof's there, it's just pushed 6 inches. The wall is just thicker than the original structure.
Like
So
a
it's-
facial facade?
Yes, yeah. It's just the face of it. Instead of having, like I said, like a 1/16 of an inch piece of steel, now it's a 6-inch physical wall.
Okay. So, this work has already been done?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you found out after the fact?
Yeah, I found out after the fact.
Okay. And was this something that was brought to your attention from the township?
Yep. Yeah, Matthew has worked with me on this, yes.
Right. Okay. Is this something you've talked with any neighbors about, or have they?
Yeah, all my neighbors are gung-ho about it. They like that the new building's going up and the old one's going away, and to be able to get it's finished.
No building, again, just to clarify, it's not going away, you're just giving it a facelift.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Exactly, yes.
Did you say there was like a building, and you built around the building?
Yes, I
and
built
then
it on the
destroyed
outside, yes.
And you got rid of the one? Mm-hmm. So,
There's no more metal, no.
Right.
was the garage damaged before you started working on it at all?
Yeah, it was old, rotting, sections where they had holes, so it was time to update.
But it was wear and tear?
Oh, yes.
Okay. The original permit said so many square feet, but you couldn't. Is it the correct square foot now? And it's just that the exterior wall?
Yes, the interior dimensions are still the same.
So it's the 800 and whatever it was, 800 54 or whatever it was square
Yes.
feet?
Yep,
So it's just the thickness of that wall that you're talking about?
correct.
Can the garage be modified at this point?
Well, anything can be modified, but I'd rather not try to move a wall. It's where it is.
Okay.
It's pinned to the ground.
All right. So it's, per the permit, it's the correct square footage?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Jeremy?
And this was, I guess, these changes were all structural in nature, and I guess was it code that kind of drove you to the 8-inch, like, what was the decision on the wall?
Yes, I tend to overbuild things.
Okay.
So instead of doing like a 2x4 wall, I'll do a 2x6 wall. Instead of doing the bare minimum when it comes to a roof structure, especially here with our snow loads, I didn't go 24-inch on center, I did 12-inch on center so I can have extra strength. So the walls in this structure are beefed up, so I will never have a problem later on.
Okay.
So you in fact did not change the footprint?
The interior footprint, no.
Okay.
The inside, no. It's the exact same concrete pad that was there originally. And it's just the walls are on,
I'm sorry, I keep going back to it. But
Yes.
the dimensions give you the correct square foot. You're saying that the interior measurement is correct. However, you extended it out for whatever.
the exterior dimension is a little larger. It's going to be the thickness of the wall.
Are all the walls like that?
Yes, all the way around.
Okay.
And the only issue is the front yard setback, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah. The back of the building actually extended out another 10 feet, but we took that off. It was falling down. So we didn't keep that section. We just demoed it and went straight with the building. It had a very odd-looking structure.
Okay. I don't have anything else, you guys? Township have any position? Sure, absolutely. I don't have anything else
Okay.
for you. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this? Please come up if you just want to take a seat.
Sue Weber, 5338 Norris Drive. I got a notice because I live near there. Mr. Hoover, I'm not trying to be insulting to you. Please don't think that I am. But this is such a mess. I've been watching this for, how long ago did you start that? 2 years ago? 2 years this has been going on. I go by it. It looks like it's going to fall in on itself. It's like disastrous. I've called the township several times to go look at it because I was worried about the way it was being constructed in an unsafe manner, it appeared to me. And it just goes on and on and on. And I called the township, and I guess there's no rule that when you take out a building permit, how long it's good for till you have to finish. Is that correct?
When the building permit's required, you have up to 5 years to finish the project.
But you're saying he wasn't required to have a building permit because,
It was under 1,000 square feet, so no building permit was required. The zoning permit requires him to start within 6 months of the issuance of the permit, which he did.
so he had a building permit.
No, he has a zoning permit, not a building permit.
Okay. And you're very positive that that's, you said 1,000 square feet?
Yes.
Well, it's still, and I don't mean to be offensive, it just looks awful. I don't know if you're allowed to put conditions on things. I don't know if you are, but if you are and you approve this, I wish there was some way you could put a condition on it that it has to be finished by a date certain, because 2 years of that on and on, having it look like that, it's really, I'm sorry, it's an eyesore, it really is. It's been a horrible eyesore in the neighborhood. That's all I wanted to say about it.
Okay. Thank you.
One more question. Ask Matt something.
Oh, you sure?
Matt, you mentioned that the BIU inspector looked at it. What dimensionally, where did he measure from? Interior, exterior?
It would be from the exterior.
So he measured exterior.
Correct, correct. In any zoning permit, we would measure from the exterior, not the interior.
And that's where the extra,
Correct, that's what pushed where the extra 8 inches came from.
and that was new. It wasn't there that it just got sided.
Correct.
It was a new wood coming out toward the road.
Correct, correct.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Matthew Waldinger, 3608 West 26th Street. I'm the Director of Planning and Development for the township. I did want to wait till the end to see if any neighbors have come to speak. I know Mrs. Weber has reached out to the township several times. We have had communications from other neighbors about the progress of the building, and so I think what Mrs. Weber mentioned was something that the township was going to ask for as well. We have no objection to the variance being granted, but wanted to know if you would consider placing a condition on it, just to ensure that it was weather tight and finished within a reasonable amount of time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Hoover, do you have an expectation of when it would be completed?
Hold on. If you could just approach before you respond, thanks.
Sure thing. As you guys know, during COVID and everything, it was really hard to get supplies. The prices went out of control. I waited, and then the last year, someone drove their vehicle through the front end of my house, and I got stuck with that bill because he didn't have insurance. So I rebuilt the front of the house, finishing that, and once I'm finished with that, I can finish the garage. I didn't do anything with the garage ever since I got the summons, because if I were to put everything up and someone says no, then I'd have to tear it all back down. It should be finished in, I'd say probably by latest, probably October. If I can get someone to show up for the things that I can't do myself, would be fantastic. So if anybody that knows a good rubber roofing person, let me know. I've called 6 or 7 different places, they just don't show up. The siding, I have, it's sitting there on the property, I just have to put it up.
Okay. I think that's all we have for you
That's
for
all.
now.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, appeal number 23-10, Eric Leinbach. I'm sorry if I butchered that. The property located at 3228 Willis Street, seeking a dimensional variance for an addition into the side yard setback in R1 Single Family Residential District.
Name is Eric Leinbach.
Okay.
Address is 3228 Willis Street. And yes, I would like to add a carport beside my garage as of now. I am asking for a 6-foot variance. I would be a foot off of the property line. Spoke with all of my neighbors and neighbors that have received letters up and down the street. I have not heard one questionable, well, why are you doing this? We purchased the house about 4 years ago. It was a horrible mess. It was an eyesore in the neighborhood, from what neighbors are telling me. And I knew it was a project, but all of that work is done. And I'd like to add a carport for a second vehicle.
Okay. So this will be attached to the home?
Well, it would be just an extension of the garage roof as it is today.
But it will touch the existing home.
Yes, the garage touches the home right now, and
So you understand if it didn't touch the home, you could be closer to the property line? You wouldn't need a variance, correct?
Detached accessory structures must be at least, excuse me, 10 feet from the house. So if so if it was constructed within 10 feet of the house, he'd still have to meet the more restrictive 7-foot setback.
Okay, so it's 10 feet.
This is a carport, though, it's not...
Yes.
Will the carport be attached to the garage?
well, I would
Proposed.
like for the neighborhood, so that it isn't looking like I just threw something up, I would like to extend it from the roof line as it is today, so that it would look, you know,
You know, I look at this, and one of the papers said 3 foot, one of the papers said 4 foot, do you have the right, or do you
Yes,
have the
I
right
was-
information?
Yes, when I was reviewing the application, I pulled the plot plan, and the plot plan shows that the house on that side is 13 feet plus or minus from the property line. So 13 minus 12 gives 1. That's where that number came from.
Because all this is different numbers.
Yeah. That's what was submitted, it was submitted, and then I talked to
Okay.
the gentleman about it.
So it is 1 foot.
Correct.
I went from my neighbor's fence, which is into his, it's set into his property. So it's not, his fence line is not on his property line, or not on the dividing property line for each property. So that's where I got the difference in measurements. So,
Okay.
So it'll be, what, 15 by 20 approximately?
12,
Well,
it would be 12.
yep. Okay. All right. Okay. It's just different from what I'm looking at.
Yeah,
Okay,
and I received, he called me, and
Okay.
he says, well,
as long as he knows.
okay,
Okay.
yeah, we discussed it,
Yeah, okay.
so,
Okay.
Will there be a cement pad underneath it, or?
no, I do have it is blacktopped right now. And that only goes to the 12-foot measurement.
So you're not adding any impervious area, you're just,
I'm not adding,
you have a parking space there?
yes, yes,
You're just covering it?
Correct,
For snow?
correct.
Okay. Okay.
In your existing garage, that's just a single stall garage?
yes. I have a single-car garage with a 8-foot wide breezeway, 20, same depth as the garage.
And that'll start at the beginning of at the same, as the garage?
Yeah, it would
Front
be
to
the
back.
front, the roof line would be the same as
Okay.
the garage that is there right now. I would prefer that just for aesthetics. Like I said, if I were to just throw a carport up there, it would be a lot easier. But it wouldn't look, I wouldn't personally like the look of it.
So it's not a carport, it's an addition to the garage?
It's just a roof, and that's what from what I understand, the technical is for carport. It's just a roof.
Is that right?
Am I not understanding that?
No,
I'm just being clear for
I picture
myself.
carport as a little separate, but you're saying you're attaching it. So I'm wondering if that's a building addition, something different.
For zoning, we would consider it an addition.
I'm sorry.
It would be considered an addition per zoning, but it's basically a carport, an attached carport.
Okay.
just to clarify for maybe John's sake, but it's going to come off and then it'll have kind of like a pole barn kind of.
Yeah, it
look
would
on the
have,
side.
I would have posts on the one
That's
side.
the carport look to it.
Yes,
with the
yeah.
tent.
It would just be a roof with, a couple posts, 4 or whatever. I would think every 6 feet, and the front and the back open, so.
And your next door neighbor, where it's impacted the most, he has the fence there, and it's going to be right up, basically right next to his fence.
No, actually, if I go 12 feet, it'll be about 3.5 feet from the fence.
Oh, okay.
So the fence line is off the property line?
The fence line is off of my property line. He has set the fence 3 feet into his property.
Right, but it would still just be a 1-foot separation between
The property line and the
base.
posts.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Anything else, John?
No.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this? Okay, Matt? Okay. All right, last up is appeal number 23-11, BJ's Restaurants Incorporated for property located at 5800 Peach Street, seeking a variance to exceed the maximum allotted parking spaces and a variance from buffer C requirements for construction of an eating and drinking establishment in C2.
Good evening. I'll pass these out. These plans the township staff so graciously printed for me.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Michael Takis. I'm with Bowler Engineering, 1 Allegheny Square, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 15212. I do have 2 other gentlemen with me this evening. Tom Hundreiser from BJ's Restaurants, who is the developer and the leaseholder for this site, and then Justin Somerville from Cafaro, which of course is the mall owner, and they will be the leaseor for this particular project. As stated, there are 2 variances that we're requesting. Before we kind of hit the details of those, the plan set that you have in front of you, I'd like to run through real quick, just to get you a sense of what this project is, more or less looking at from where the site is to where the site is proposed to go. This site is the location of the former Sears Automotive Center that has, of course, been raised. The foundation, the slab is still there. All of the pavement that's around that area is still there. This would be adjacent to the Sonic that exists on the site. I'll probably go to the BJ's Restaurant and Brew House map. It just shows the outline of that foundation, where it exists today. And you can see the Sonic on there, on the site. There are 2 images showing what the site looks like existing. There's a photograph that has a for-lease 1.74 acre parcel sign. There you can see the sidewalk and the slab that exists. You can see the asphalt that is still there. And then, of course, you can see the Sonic that is adjacent. The second photo shows from inside the site looking back towards the entrance. The existing trees that are along the entrance drive would remain. All of our work is contained within the outline of that kind of developed paved area. So we're not going out and encroaching or pushing impervious out into any of those existing pervious spaces. And then the last image is looking out towards the front. You can see the elevation difference from the site out to Peach Street. So I think we're roughly 15 feet below Peach Street at its max. And then, of course, that slope is all contained within PennDOT right-of-way. So there's, when we get to the next site plan, it does narrow down. We do not have direct frontage up on Peach Street. There's quite a wide right-of-way, and then a number of other utility easements that exist in that area as well. If you look at the sheet 201, this is basically survey data. Sheet 201 is this document. So this is showing the existing site pavement areas, showing where the slab is. The heavy dark line is that right-of-way line of Peach Street, and I can't say where it is with the existing parking. The proposed parking is basically 90 feet away from the edge of the cartway of Peach Street. So we're 15 feet down, and we're 90 feet off of the edge of the pavement for Peach Street. The next drawing is another, again, this is an AutoCAD drawing showing what our proposed development is. We do peel the parking away from the outside edge of where it is, and today along Peach Street, and then we, of course, pick up significant amounts of landscape area around the site. Our total, with the latest footprint that's on this document that you see here, our total reduction of impervious to pervious is a 17% reduction. So we're picking up significant amounts of green space and non-paved surfaces on this plan itself. The restaurant, again, is a single-level restaurant. There are renderings that we'll get to at the end. They do have a signature feature, which is a silo out in the front. That is the small gray circle that is on the plan, kind of northeast corner. It is non-functional, but it goes back to the whole brew house heritage, back to where whenever those were more functioning, and they were actually, I don't believe that you're physically brewing beer in these restaurants anymore, correct? So I think it was something you used to do in the past. So again, it is a signature feature. We did present that to Planning Commission, showed them a generalized image of what another prototype had on it, and it was well received as that kind of signature element itself. The next document is a rendering showing all of the landscape area. All of the light green is new lawn area, as well as significant amount of tree and shrub plantings throughout the site plan itself. And we will come back to that, because that obviously is one of the variances that we are looking for your support. The next image is rendering of the building elevations. So you have 4 elevations. The one on the upper left is what is the front of the building. That is what's facing Peach Street. The one on the upper right is facing the Sonic. The lower left is actually facing back towards the mall, and the lower right is facing the entrance drive coming down off of Peach Street itself. The buildings are made of high-quality material. You'll see in the photograph of a similar location. This is basically the same prototype as it exists. I believe it's in Maryland. But this is the same prototype. This is the same finish, the same architectural look that you will see on the BJ's Restaurant and Brew House here in Bell Creek Township. So to our variances, do you want to cover them in any particular order?
Let's talk about the parking first.
Okay. So the code has both a minimum and a maximum number of parking spaces in the revised code. As it exists today, this site would require 92 parking spaces as a max. Operationally, across their entire footprint, BJ's, if they were going in a greenfield site with a brand-new location, a brand-new store, they would look to target 150 car parks for their operation. That's what they see as far as the volume of their business. That supports their business. Obviously, with the prices of everything, putting more pavement down just to put pavement from an operational standpoint isn't good business from BJ's, but that's what they see that they need. This site itself, within the confines, we can get 120 spaces, which exceeds obviously 112 spaces, which exceeds by 20 the maximum allowed. Our justification behind it is that the primary reason to keep parking down and putting a maximum cap is heat island effect, meaning too much pavement, too much paved surfaces that aren't needed most of the time. And then the other is for stormwater runoff, right? So if we can make things more green, it reduces the heat island. It also absorbs stormwater and reduces runoff. From our site plan, from the existing conditions, we are accommodating that in two ways. One is the 17% reduction in paved surface from what's there today. That's a significant decrease in runoff rate that's coming and leaving this site. And then the second is to meet the stormwater ordinances of today, from back when the mall was, and the Sears was originally created. We have a significant underground detention system that's located between our site and the Sonic site as well. So we're managing stormwater both from reduced impervious and from that pavement, which we believe still meets the intent of that maximum parking number throughout the site. That's our justification. In this case, again, it is a redevelopment of an existing developed site. It has been raised, but it has not been taken back to pre-development conditions. Do you want me to go ahead into the second one, or would you like to talk about the first one?
When you say the maximum parking spaces, the ordinance has a maximum of 20% over the required minimum. Is that what you're, so you have a minimal and you increased it by 20%, and you're here to go beyond that?
That's correct.
12 spaces or whatever it is.
20 spaces over the maximum by the ordinance, that's correct.
And briefly, can you say how you're going to save 17%?
So if you look at the photographs, or even the original, the survey, all of this area from this line out here, which is the edge of the existing parking, all the way back to this curb line today is paved. All of that pavement is, it's actually paved even up to the other side of the Sonic there. All of that pavement is coming out and being replaced by lawn, shrub and tree plantings, perennials. It is being pulled up and replaced by topsoil and then plantings in those areas. That's where the 17%
So all the
reduction.
green area you see here is 17%.
And all the green areas that you see on here are all new green areas. We did not render any of the existing landscape areas, like the areas out in front here. So this is all lawn here as well, but that exists today. I wasn't going to try to fool you and tell you that, look at all the new green space that I'm putting in, because it's there. All of the green hatched areas and all of the tree symbols and shrub symbols, that's all brand new. And that's what's generating that number.
May I interject?
I guess every area that you're working within is on the impervious surface that's already existing, is that correct?
That's correct. We are not pushing into any existing landscaped areas. We're staying within that footprint and then increasing the amount of landscaping by pulling pavement out.
And can you state, because obviously, when our ordinance was written with the parking spaces, it's based upon number of seats?
No, actually, and if I'd like to interject real quick, there was a revised submission to the zoning hearing board. The building was reduced down to 7,510 square feet, which actually reduces the maximum from 92 to 90 parking spaces, but the current zoning ordinance, the required parking is 100 square feet, one space for every 100 square feet of gross floor area. So with the building at 7,500 square feet, they're allowed 75 spaces. So, yeah, it's not based on seats anymore.
Okay.
It used to be. The code was based off, I think it was one space per three seats, plus one for every employee max on the shift, I think. It was
Yes.
something in that, it was in that range.
Yes.
And now it's simply based off of square footage of the building. So if you don't mind, Tom, can you explain, just like this restaurant, how many seats we're physically going to have and talk about that ratio?
My name is Tom Hundreiser. I'm Director of Real Estate for BJ's Restaurants, and I have responsibility for choosing sites, negotiating deals across the country. And we're about a 7,600 square foot building. We have seating for about 240 people, and at peak shift, which is Friday and Saturday night, we have 30 to 35 employees. So for us to do the business that we need to do to justify the investment in the building and every other cost, we need about 150 spaces to operate efficiently and at peak times. So we don't mind having some of the parking removed, but a large portion makes it inconvenient for a lot of our customers. So with the 90 spaces that would be code, our maximum, we wouldn't have enough for all of our customers to park on our site. We can park our employees at the other side of the ring road behind us, and I believe it's the Boscov's parking field. But if we don't have more than 90 on our, right around our building and on our parcel, we won't be able to do the kind of business that we need to do here. And I believe that we're very capable of doing. I think it's a very strong trade area, and so we want to be here. But I've got to have the capacity. So typically, I'm looking for about 20 spaces per 1,000 square feet instead of 10. 10 is what I see as being practical for fast casual, and fast casual visitors are there for a shorter period of time. And in BJ's and in many of the full-service restaurants, people will spend an hour, hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours or more. And so you've got to have room for that many cars, and you have to have more seats. So,
And do you have, as part of your lease agreement, the ability to park in Boscov's?
we do, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's something I think that we've worked out with Cafaro, the owners of the mall, or it's part of the reciprocal easement agreement for all of the tenants there. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So just to clarify, the maximum number that we're working with is 90.
Correct, based off the revised plan.
And then with the revised plan, is there going to be, was there additional parking added beyond the
It's
112 spaces?
It's the 112.
It's the 112?
Correct.
All right, so then it's
It's
increasing it by
22.
22? Right, okay.
Probably would have gone a long ways if you'd have added one of those skillet cookies with the ice cream on top.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Okay, I think those are the questions that I have on parking. Do you guys have anything else? Okay. Now let's talk about the buffer C requirements.
So we obviously, as you can tell from the landscape plan, we are providing a buffer along our parking lot. There's an additional requirement for a street tree to be planted along that frontage. That's why I pointed out the size of that right-of-way. So we're not going to be able to put any trees in the PennDOT right-of-way. So we're 90 feet away from the pavement. The requirement by code along that frontage would call for 6 street trees. We are proposing to place 4 street trees with realistically 2 additional trees that are in that row, but they're interior to the parking. So it's an island that juts out along that last face. We have 6, but I can't count those 2 because they are also required as interior parking trees as well. Practically, visually, it's going to look like 6 trees across that frontage. But the dimensions of that right-of-way, holding that slope up, approaching the bridge, is keeping us from doing anything up of meaning along Peach Street as far as a street tree. We're not looking to skimp on landscaping as I've shown in the planting plan. We're not even looking to really adjust the numbers. We're just really looking to allow 4 trees to be planted to offset the 6, as opposed to 6, what in effect would be 8 across that frontage, which would be an awful lot across that front
Yeah,
area.
why not 6 in the row where the 4 are? Seems like there's a gap in the middle that you could do 2 additionals.
There is, I think the problem is that with us being down below, by 15 feet below Peach Street, we're going to have visibility issues anyways. That tree canopy is going to be right up in front, basically offsetting any visual coming off of Peach into our site. So the rationale is, we practically have the same intensity as far as plantings are concerned, but we're required to kind of put those trees in that interior parking, and those spaces, I believe, have to be broken up by X number of spaces. You have to have an island. So we have that, and we can't move those other trees closer up to Peach Street, so we're kind of in a little bit of a tight spot as far as being able to one, still have view corridors in of a restaurant, and then 2, having the space to literally get that all in. The monument sign is there for the mall as well. There are also a number of other easements, but they are up in that right-of-way area. It just really restricts our ability to put more trees in that frontage.
So the only side we're talking about is the side toward Peach Street. That's the issue?
Correct.
Just want to make sure. Because it looks like you have a corridor coming in the private road. The mall already has trees, plus
The
you have your
existing
parking
trees, that's correct.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Questions? Yes? No? Okay, I guess I don't really have any questions on that. Anything else you'd like to say for now?
No, other than if I have to come back, I'll bring a cookie with ice cream on the top.
Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this? No? Matt?
Matthew Waldinger, 3608 West 26th Street, Director of Planning and Development for the Township. First of all, I'd like to say that we're very happy to have BJ's come to Mill Creek. We think it is going to be a great addition, and we are looking forward to them being here. I do want to, though, come up here. I guess I should start off by saying the second variance that's requested as far as buffer C, the township takes no position on. So
Okay.
I'm strictly here to talk about the parking variance. The township does have the 120% maximum parking limit in its ordinance. That is not new to the ordinance that was adopted in April of last year. That was previously added to the prior ordinance. I believe it was in 2017. So that has been a longstanding feature of the ordinance. And he is correct that that is, for the heat effect that, is caused by additional pavement, as well as for the stormwater management that was caused by additional pavement. The township is not, unreasonable as far as people needing additional parking to do their business. If this was a standalone parcel where it was out, on its own site with nothing around it, we may be talking something different. But this parcel is part of the mall complex. It does have cross-access agreements with the mall itself. And we feel that there is more than enough sufficient parking within a reasonable distance to the site to meet the township's 120% requirement. I did provide a few, I should say, I did print out a couple different email exchanges back and forth, but I understand that I don't want to bore the board with it. If you'll take my assurances that we have had conversations with BJ's going back into beginning in August of last year about our requirements. It was stated that we did have 120% maximum. They did come back with additional questions in September of last year, and we again reiterated the 120% maximum. The one exhibit I do want to share with the board, though, is this one that I prepared. Just kind of shows. I just wanted to point out that, on average, a person can walk about 300 feet in 1 minute. And so what I did was I placed an X kind of at the center about where BJ's entrance door is. And I drew a few circles, 300-foot radius, a 60-second walk. I did a 450, a 90-second walk, and then a 600-foot for a 2-minute walk. Eliminating any of the spaces that would be for Sonic or for the restaurant across the access road, just within that 300-foot 1-minute walk, there are 43 full spaces. And then you can expand it out. And I understand that people aren't going to walk forever, but this is a shopping center. It does have cross-parking for multiple uses, and it's not unreasonable to think that some patrons may park and shop at the mall and then walk over to the restaurant. We just feel that in this case, where there's so much available parking for an area that is, frankly, overparked at this time, I think that the mall has more spaces than they need. Not suggesting that they would reduce those, but in this chance, or this opportunity where something's being redeveloped to add additional parking over and above our requirements, we think is a little much. And the other point that I'd like to make is, we understand that parking may be what they desire for a Friday night or a Saturday night, but once that pavement's in and those parking spaces exist, they are there, 365 days a year, soaking up heat, shedding rain. And if they're only being used for a fraction of the time, we feel that the available parking nearby would be sufficient.
So I have a question.
Yes.
If it's already impervious surface, they're under no obligation to remove that impervious surface.
They are.
So if it were to remain, it would just be not marked blacktop.
No, they would have to meet our requirements as far as parking, like those parking lot plantings and the amount of impervious area.
Right.
Or pervious area, I should say, within a parking lot. They are required to meet.
So I guess, I'm just trying to reconcile, would they have to remove the impervious surface then that they're not using as parking?
Yes, that is in the ordinance.
Okay.
Yep. Anything not used for drive aisles, circulation, or parking needs to be landscaped.
Okay.
But would that include, like, there's two large garden areas outside of the building within the sidewalk? I mean, could that in theory be pavers or outdoor patio area or something else?
If it was proposed to be outdoor patio, yes.
Or just extra walkway space or?
It has to serve a use. It can't just
Okay.
remain.
Yeah, because I understand where they're coming from, where they're saying, hey, we're making this a lot better, and we've been to so many of these where we're sitting here trying to find parking to make things work, and now it's like,
Right.
this is a first, to be honest. We want to create the use, because where I'm at in my struggle, where I see where they're coming from, is that I totally understand today it's beautiful out. I'm thinking about December when there's slush and the mall, you do a fine job taking care of the snow, but I can tell you if I'm parking across the street, I'm probably not walking through 6 inches of slush across the roadway unless there were delineated crosswalks
Right,
that
and
were
that's what I
salted.
was getting at, like the health and safety, what's the township's position on health and safety with respect to crossing, having patrons cross Mill Creek Mall Drive? I mean, that's,
So I did not see the exhibit that was handed to you. I just have a copy of what was submitted to the township, but if I could approach.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I'll use the exhibit that you have.
Because I'm looking at 3 lanes of traffic here.
Sure, and they do show, at least on the plan I have, I don't know if you have one that shows a sidewalk and a crosswalk. You can see the next.
Right here. Go back one page for you. This here?
Yes, yeah, so they are building a sidewalk here with the crosswalk that leads up to the front door. So they are accounting for walkers coming from that parking.
But yeah, going back to the safety, it seems like, you see a lot of shopping centers where they have the stop for pedestrian sign with hatched crosswalks. Is that a requirement?
It's not a requirement, it would definitely be a recommendation, but
Okay.
Is there any parking, like restrictions across the street, where your circle, does that have to be approved that those parking spaces could be used for this project? Is there
Well-
anything in the leases?
I think there's reciprocal easement agreements that allow for cross parking, and maybe that's something that Mr. Cafaro, or could speak to, the representative Cafaro. I don't know specifically, but I know that there's, in other areas of the mall, there are these reciprocal easement agreements that allow for cross parking amongst the mall tenants.
And I do believe that we've heard testimony today that they do intend for their employees to park over in that area.
But that kind of issue is not an issue, parking basically anywhere you want.
So the township does require that parking, and Matt, please correct me if I'm wrong, that parking be on the same parcel, but this is all considered part of the mall complex.
All right, so it's not a problem. So on the plan that you gave us, how many parkings, I was trying to count them out. 112. 112 on the ones that you just gave us.
Can I throw one additional piece out there?
You know, I do appreciate, you know, the idea of, we're not looking to put more parking in than what we want. And in this case, where it's already impervious and we're reducing it, I think that the intent of that requirement for a maximum number of parking is still being met by our site plan. There are other projects within the mall complex as well that are also pulling out parking spaces. The Dick's Sporting Goods modification to the Bon-Ton department store has a outdoor field expansion that is pulling 50 parking spaces out of the mall as well. But it is technically it's within the mall complex, but it is on a separate parcel. But it is, as you know, was mentioned, it is still all part of the overall complex. But because it was on a separate parcel, we had discussed with the township that we could not use that as part of a justification. But it is still a fact. It is still something that's taking place within the overall mall itself. I think that we are providing that crosswalk. We are providing that. We are anticipating that our employees will use those spaces over there, not our customers. That's a much more controlled group and a more limited number. It's not going to be a constant back and forth. It's going to be a shift change. It's going to be a relatively small group all at one time and all the one time back versus relying on those spaces throughout the day on a busy day. And I do appreciate, you know, the snow and slush is definitely a factor in this market, which will be a deterrent to our customers.
Can I ask Tom one question?
Yes.
If this grant, for whatever reason, was not approved, what would that entail?
Well,
Jason?
I think it's a big problem for us. I don't bring in sites where I've got insufficient amount of parking convenient to the building. So in this case, 90 spaces isn't good enough, so.
Is this a variance and condition of the lease?
Yes, all of our permits for our use and for, you know, in our discretion. And so, yes, that would be a condition to the lease, absolutely. So I think the root of the issue, though, is the 10, your code at 10 per 1,000. And in restaurants like ours, that's totally inadequate, so.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
And this is a question, I'm sorry, Representative from Cafaro, could you come up, please?
My name is Justin Somerville, 5577 Youngstown Warren Road, Niles, Ohio.
So I guess my question to you, because I don't want to overburden the entire parking field, because I appreciate, Matt, what you gave here, but do you have an overall census? Obviously, we know you've lost some tenants, but there's other tenants going in, and Dick's and things like that. You know, do you have, or does the township have a total census of parking spaces for the mall? I mean, I don't know if that's if they're at the minimum they need right now, and then we're saying, oh, well, we'll just take 40 of theirs, I don't want to create a burden over there, so now Boscov's doesn't have enough, and they're stealing somebody else's, and it's jockeying around.
Yeah, so, yeah, we do have entire numbers on our complexes. I don't have those numbers in front of me, but that's
Okay.
something we can look at. I do know, like during Black Fridays, you know, time of the year, that parking lot could get pretty filled up, and obviously that would affect directly the, you know, especially during winter months, you know, slush, Black Friday, not really a good mixture for customers that have to cross the Mall Ring Road. And who knows if they even can find parking, you know, even, I know that parking field looks very large and looks like it's overparked, but there's certain situations where those parking spots are definitely necessary. So if BJ's can get, you know, at least a little bit closer to what they typically have at their restaurants, I think that would definitely be the preferred and very beneficial, I think, to the complex and Mill Creek Township.
Okay. Matt, can you come up? I want to ask something. So I definitely understand where you're coming from as far as excess of parking with the mall, and obviously they'd have to agree to it, but if we're stating that, oh, okay, I understand, and I'm going to trust you that that's how many parking spaces you need to operate, is there any thought if Gafaro would be willing to, if they remove some of their parking to create additional green space where they just have a mass parking field, so that, hey, we're giving you 20 extra here, but we're going to take away a strip of 10 here to get some green space and beautify that parking lot a little bit. Is that something that would?
So I will say that that is something that the Cafaro Company has done in the past to meet stormwater management requirements. There's a large lot outside of where Elevate Church is now that is relatively unused, and
Okay.
they have removed spaces over there in order to create new pervious area to meet certain stormwater management requirements. As it was mentioned earlier, there was a discussion because Dick's Sporting Goods is removing about 50 parking spots, but, and you'll have to forgive me because I don't have the exact number, but when we measured, it was close to 1,000 feet or more away from this location, and we felt that it wasn't one-to-one, and that's kind of why I did that kind of walkable distance. You know, I don't think that it makes a lot of sense to take parking from, you know, say, over by the existing Dick's and say, well, that'll make up for these parking spaces that they're putting here. It is all on the same
I'm actually
property.
talking about right across the street, you know what I mean, right in the is that Boscov's parking lot, right where you have your 450, 90-second walk. I'm talking about right in there, because quite frankly, it's just a asphalt jungle right there, you know what I mean? It's, we all know, there's no green space there. If there was some sort of green space there, then we're saying, okay, yeah, BJ's is getting a little bit extra, but instead of asking people to cross a 3-lane road, and employees are employees, that's what they've got to do, you know, they'll wear slush boots or whatever they have to do. I'm trying to make it work for patrons and have a happy medium in here. If there were some green space added over there to the equal amount of parking spaces they're looking to add, or some facility thereof, it seems like that would be a bit of a win for the overall complex.
Certainly, I think that's reasonable. It wasn't something that was proposed,
Sure.
so it wasn't something we considered.
Okay. Okay. You please back up. So you understand what I'm asking?
Yeah, I am, and I can't really make that kind
I
of
understand.
decision. That's more of, above my pay grade, but I know I've seen in the past where we have added green space. Obviously, there's not a lot of green spaces typically on mall complexes, so
Sure.
obviously we would like to adapt to what, you know, what will bring people to the mall, and if that's green space, then that's green space. But I can't make that decision
I understand.
tonight.
I just want to make sure you understand where I'm.
Yeah, I understand, yeah.
Okay.
I do just want to say that our leasing department did work very hard to bring BJ's, to convince them to come to the complex and to Mill Creek Township. I knew they were looking at alternative locations in Summit Township, so.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. John, questions?
No, I was trying to think of alternatives.
And I think that's one of them.
Yeah.
If it could be figured out where and how much.
Scott? Jeremy? Does anyone else in the audience have anything to say? Okay. We're going to take a recess, and we'll be back in just a bit. If Scott makes it. Right? Okay, let the record show, we reconvened at 7:56. In the item of appeal number 23-09, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the variance as requested with the condition of a completion by 9/30/23. Oh, yeah, sorry. That condition defined as all exterior cladding, roofing, and doors be completed.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? So moved. Appeal number 23-10, Eric Leinbach.
I'll make a motion to approve the 6-foot variance with the condition of an attached carport in accordance with the proposed plans as presented tonight.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. Appeal number 23-11, BJ's Restaurants Incorporated. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve both variances.
I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second? Granted.